Yeah, we're gonna do start Chanukah. We're gonna see some in tough Reish Pei. I'll see how much we can do in around 10 minutes. The Yerushalmi says, the Torah quotes that on motzei Shabbos, after Shabbos, ein mavdilim b'ner shel Chanukah sheinin in la'oira. That we don't do havdala, not allowed to do havdala while using the menorah. You have to have a special separate candle because you cannot get pleasure from the menorah. Ve'im avarchen al ner shel la'oira. And you can't make a bracha on the Chanukah candle until you get pleasure from it. So you cannot use the menorah for havdalah because you're not allowed to get pleasure from the menorah. Beis Yosef says that what near the davka kishabeirach tila al bakas ner Chanukah, specifically referring to you lit the menorah before havdalah, which is a whole discussion in the order in and of itself. So you made the bracha first on lighting the menorah. Then you're not allowed to do havdalah on it afterwards. However, you're able to first say the bracha for havdalah on the menorah before you say a bracha for lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. You light the menorah, one candle, let's say, one wick with the oil. You say the havdalah and you say Pri Megadim, then you could extinguish it, relight it, and say the bracha before for ner Chanukah. After you extinguish it, before you light it, well, however you do it, we're going to discuss that. And that will be better to do that. Why? Since it was used for one mitzvah, it will be used for another mitzvah. Rather, says the Beis Yosef, because we hold that afuke yoima is odif, it's better to end Shabbos as late as possible. So there's a custom to light the menorah first. Now, once you light the menorah, then you light it for Chanukah, then you cannot use it for Havdalah. Even after it already was lit the proper amount of time, because you're not allowed to benefit from that, and therefore that would be a problem. The Darchei Moshe over here quotes the Terumas Hadeshen, who says this is the custom to light menorah before Havdalah. We're going to see different opinions about this. Excuse me, that was the Bach. I made a mistake. Sorry, I said it was the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef is up over here, and he quotes the Terumas Hadeshen in Siman Samach, who says that we light the Ner Chanukah in a shul before Havdalah. Why? In order to end Shabbos as late as possible. So those shuls that have a custom to do Havdalah in the shul, they would actually first light the menorah and then Havdalah after. However, the Avudraham writes that no, that you should light the menorah after you do Havdalah in the shul. The white shul still does this, so it would apply to them. That is the tour. Let's see that Terumas Hadeshen inside. Here it is, beautiful. The Terumas Hadeshen in his Shilos and Chuvas and Siman Samach over here says even so he answers. He says that we make the bracha first. Okay, what's he's talking about? He's talking about, let's say if you're doing sfira on Shabbos night or on Yom Tov in a shul. So do you do the bracha and then the sfira before Kiddush? Or do you do it after Kiddush? When do you do Sfira Shalom, before Kiddush or after? So he wants to say that you do the bracha first and you do Sfira after Kiddush. That's so aka you do Kiddush first, then Sfira. So as the Terumas Hadeshen, even though the custom on motzei Shabbos and on Yontif is to first do Sfira before Havdalah, right? No, over there is different because over there you do Sfira first, because you want to end Shabbos as soon as possible. Right, you want to end Shabbos as late as possible, right? So therefore, that's why you would also light the menorah in shul before Havdalah in order to let Shabbos end out later. What'd you say?
If the shul does havdalah.
Right, if they have the custom, of course. If they don't have the custom, there's nothing to talk about. Comes along the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch rules that on motzei Shabbos, he says that we do not do Havdalah with the menorah, because you're not allowed to get pleasure from it. You can't make a bracha on it, like we just saw in Sif Beis. He says that we light the menorah in shul before Havdalah. Certainly in your house, adds the Rama, that we first light and then we do Havdalah, because you already did Havdalah in shul. This is only talking about if you did Havdalah in shul. If not, then it wouldn't apply. The Taz comes along and he says, I thought about this, that you should do Havdalah before Ner Chanukah. And he bases it on a Mishna in Zvachim, on Pei Tes, Tadיר, ושאינו תדיר, קודם. You do what's more common. So Havdalah is more common That's basically the Taz over here. So according to this, the something more common would even override pursue Menisa. The Morgan of Ram over here, he says that someone who forgot Atachon in Tano should first do Havdalah and then afterwards light. Because now there's a custom for people not to light before Havdalah, and therefore be prohibited to light since you didn't do Havdalah. Nevertheless, the congregation shouldn't do this. Rather, you should say Hamavdi Baruch Hamavdi Mikol Shlo and then light, and then afterwards do Havdalah.
So that's the answer.
Yeah, correct. So this is the Pri Megadim over here. The Pri Megadim writes, Mashma Daiso, the Beis Yosef. It's implied from here that in a person's house, person can do what the Ramah says, only if forgotten tefillah should do Havdalah on the coast. And okay, fine. And he goes into this a little bit more. He says over here in the Pri Megadim on the Taz, he said, my master, the rabbi, he says that he did Havdalah first in his house before menorah, like the Taz. Like the Lavosh, he says, that's what I did, the Pri Megadim says. So he would actually do Havdalah first. And he says, Ve'im lagar b'shum adam ki yesh lo mi lismach. Don't protest anyone. Everyone has what to rely on, whether you're going to light the menorah first or do Havdalah first. It's really all legitimate. And the Machatzes Hashekel says, Beis HaKnesset in Shul, in l'shana shum minhag, don't change any custom. Ubebeiso, David Kamar Ovid, David Kamar Ovid. Machatzes Hashekel says, do whatever you want in your house. You want to light first, you light for the menorah first. You want to do Havdalah first, you do Havdalah first. It's fine. You could do whatever you want over here, and that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. What does Mishnah Berura over here say?
About what I said. It's not like a tarty the sasya. You want to delay Shabbos when we get Havdalah, but you're lighting a candle.
Correct.
So it's like a tarty the sasya, right?
Correct. What, the Havdalah candle or menorah?
No, I'm saying the menorah is a tarty. You want to delay Shabbos,
right?
But you're doing a malacha,
right? So the question is officially bringing Shabbos out though, verbally. Yeah, but it's an excellent point that you're bringing up. The Ber Hativ over here quotes the Malbusha Yom Tov, who wants to say over here that the Maharal Prague had the custom to do Havdalah before, and his reason is because you might forget to do you might have forgotten to Havdalah and Tefillah, and now you might light in a prohibited manner, and he says that this is what you want to do. It's a good point. The Mishnah Berura, the Ber Halacha rather, over here, he says you should do like what the Achronim say. In a shul, don't change any custom that you had to light the Ner Chanukah before. In your house, you could do whatever you want. Also, the Pri Megadim quote says you don't protest anyone because everyone has who to rely on. This is the idea over here. The Mishnah Berura and Aleph comes along and says, if you're going to say the bracha first on the menorah, you can't do Havdalah on that menorah afterwards. Because of what's discussed in Shulchan Aruch. But first, you can light the menorah, recite the bracha for Havdalah on that, extinguish it, and then you could return and relight it, that it should count for Ner Chanukah. For the menorah, the adif tefillah it's better to do to came David mitzvah chad mitzvah. Christus, since it was used for one mitzvah, will be used for another mitzvah. Elo the came the kaimalan, rather, since we hold psachim kuf hey t'lacher fuke yoimo adif tefillah, it's better to end Shabbos later, as it says in Siv Beis. Kaima Siv Beis, it says later on Siv Beis, no hagam lahablik ner Chanukah techilo v'shuv yevshar lahavdala. That's what there's a custom to light the ner Chanukah first, and then it's impossible to do Havdalah on that. Mishnah Berura Beis after mitzvah of Havdalah Tedir, even though mitzvah of Havdalah is more common. Nevertheless, as long as you could end Shabbos later, you should end Shabbos later. Also, you have your presumanisa, you're publicizing the miracle with your menorah on Chanukah. And if you forgot a tachan and tani, you should say Hamad min kol d'shachol. And then afterwards you should lie, and then afterwards you say Vi'itin Lacha, and then afterwards you have Havdalah. Rav Aaron Cutler said don't do a Vi'itin Lacha. Apparently in Lakewood they don't do Vi'itin Lacha, which is interesting. I didn't know that. In Gimel, Certainly in your house, Roy Saloimar, Ukfar Sham Havdala. You already heard of Havdala. Dvar Megugamim. Who cares that you already heard Havdala in Shul? We don't have in mind to fulfill our obligations with that Havdala. The Taz holds another Achronim, Vokam Achronim, Chonim Bishitasa, which hold with his opinion. Pligal Iker Dina Shel Machaber. They argue on that which the Shulchan Aruch says. And the Ramal, really, when they hold that the mitzvah of Havdala, the mitzvah of Havdala, Kodemas Laner Chanukah. The mitzvah of Havdala comes before the mitzvah of Chanukah, Mishum Dehi Tadira, because it is more common, Havdala is more common, and therefore, ושאינו תדיר קודם. Something more common precedes. I'm Berura the Yesh Bazeh Deyos Ben Rishon. Berura is different opinions than Rishonim. Ve'alkein, and therefore, Beis Yosef in Lashanos Minog Shnot Israel in the shul. Don't change any custom that people already did. First to do havdala, first to do the menorah, and then havdala afterwards. But in the house, so in your house you could do whatever you want. That's going to be the psak over there in your house. Do whatever you want, psak. That's what everyone likes. Okay, let's see. He wants to say that there's a custom that's spread in many Jewish areas to first do Havdalah and then to light Chanukah after. That's what a lot of people do. They just do Havdalah first. So the Taz says could be Kabbalistic reasons also behind it. So the Ben Ish Chai says that's more correct to do. That's what the Chazon Ish did, Havdalah first and then Ner Chanukah. So look, you have different customs. It seems like a lot of people are going to go with that route. They're saying the Dare shoe. I'm gonna get it booted out here in a minute. Those people have the custom on every motzei Shabbos. Oh yes, man Rabbeinu Tam. Maybe if you always wait for Rabbeinu Tam for Shabbos to end, Chanukah would be no different, and therefore you should wait for Rabbeinu Tam in order to light. But if you only kept Rabbeinu Tam and you know it's a stringency, but not that you hold that it's from the letter of the law to go like Rabbeinu Tam, that's not that it's Meker Adin. Rav Yosef says in that case you could light after 55 minutes after sunset in America. That is within the half hour after Seitz Chavim. So it depends exactly why you're going the Rabbeinu Tam route, and that would affect what you do. They quote different poskim over here. Mishna Berura says, do whatever you want. They quote different poskim. Even if you daven Marav when it's still day, you would still say Al Anisim. Okay, that's an interesting point. Oh, interesting. So Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld would have the menorah prepared outside of his entrance of his house, or the menorah before he even got home. That way he would reach and he would hit the mitzvah of menorah.